welcome to our 5th Nordic Virtual Meetup. I'm Jens Petersen, and I'm will be our host and moderator tonight. I'm co-organizing the Danish meetups, and we'll have you on mute during this. You're welcome to unmute yourself if you have any questions. The questions you can write in the chat, or either to everybody or directly to me, and we get the questions answered by our panel today. And of course, remember to tell you that we are recording this, and hopefully we have this recording ready for you in a couple of days, so you can find any good answers to your questions. So you. But first, let's meet Morten and hear all the news from the GTD Nordic.
Thank you, Jens. Can I ask all of you who have a camera in a situation where you actually can turn it on, can you just turn it on so we can see you? I would love to see you. So, hi, everybody. Oh, hello.
I saw a pizza.
Yeah, it's okay if you are, you know, in a noisy place or a place you don't want to show your camera, but just turn it on for us to see. Yeah, oh, this is so cool. While you turn your cameras on, I would like to tell you that I am very, very happy that we are building this community of people who are interested in GTD, and that we now have the 5th virtual meetup in the Nordic region. This is so cool. And some of my dreams, one of my dreams when I, back in 2006, understood what GTD was to build a community for GTD. And, you know, first and foremost, I was for me, because I needed someone. I didn't know anyone else who did GTD at the time. And then back in 2009, we had the first meetup in Oslo with, actually it was 87 people in the room. And that was physical meetup back in the days when Corona was not important. So, well, again, stoked that you are here. Thank you for being here. And I hope that we will bring you some value tonight and you will learn something new you didn't know. And I just want to give you the brief overview of the news. We don't have a lot of news. Well, we have some very important news. We have new trainers that's just joining us. We have some of them with us today, and I will go through them in the order of Norway first, because I'm a patriot, but because I started with Anna Stina Næss, which is with us. She starts with an A, that's why she's first, so I will continue on Norway. We have Bjørnar O. Klinkenberg. Bjørnar, are you here today? I don't see you. If you are here, wave and say hi. And we have Christian Krogshus. He is also not here today. Christian is, by the way, the municipality head doctor of the district where he in Moss, who has been having a lot of Corona lately. For those of you who are from Norway, you know this. Moss had a really big problem, and he's telling me that GTD is helping him maneuver in the madness, which is good news for the world. We have Karsten Nilsen, and I see Karsten here. Can you wave, Karsten, so people can see you? There is Karsten. And we have Karsten Nilsen is from Denmark, and then we have from Sweden, Martin Hagen. Hey, Martin. And we have Pétur Einarsson from Iceland, our first trainer on Iceland, who is a certified trainer now. Of these names I just gave you, we have 2 people who are certified, and the others are trainers in certification process. So the certified ones are Martin Hagen, and we have Pétur Einarsson on Iceland is just certified, so that's cool. I had a friend, I have to tell you, be frank, tell you stories that when I started this, I reached out to my community on Twitter and asked them, do I know someone who knows GTD? And I got in touch with a guy called Frode Odegaard. And Frode is a guy who left Norway 20 years ago and moved to the United States. And I think he mainly lived in California and San Francisco. And he is a friend of David Allen. He reached out to me. We got to talk about this, and he partially mentored me in the first process of starting to establish GTD in the Nordic region. And he told me, you know, you should, because I said I only want Norway first for this, and I focused on Norway, and it says, why you want only Norway? You can do this in the Nordic region. And he pushed me for this, and I wish he was here today so that he can hear my praise to him. Thank you for pushing me. Sometimes we need people pushing. So that was the trainers, and what we have of news is that we this summer has launched all the seminars we have that we are licensed to deliver as virtual training. We use a very good what we call a learning platform called Adobe Connect, which is really good for creating very interesting and changing environments for make sure you don't fall asleep when you do a course. So the level 1s and the level 2s are available for us to deliver to you if you would be interested to do that. And the format is not 1 day, but 2 hours over 3 days. So 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours over 3 days to teach you GTD. The feedback we have gotten from our clients are really good. It is the same or even at some instances better than the physical courses, which is kind of strange, but it is, we think, because of the format where you have 2 hours, you have time to think and process, and then you have 2 hours time to think and process, then 2 hours and time to think and process instead of 8 hours in one go, which is kind of tiresome, I think, maybe. Okay, and then we have virtual coaching for those of you who are interested in being coached. And we also do keynotes in virtual environments over whatever platform and our clients would choose. So everything is virtual now because of Corona. We will continue keeping this when Corona goes away because we think we will reach a different market. So that's about it when it comes to GTD news, and I will leave the word back to Jens.
Thank you, Morten. Let's just say hi to our panel. We can start with Esben. Your biggest, your favorite part of GTD right now. What is that, Esben?
Oh, right now, it's got to be the flexibility. I think that no matter what happens, no matter how impossible it is to predict what will happen in your life, it is possible to make GTD adapt to whatever situation you have. Just a matter of focusing on what's the least amount of structure I need to get my work done, and not simplify any further. It's been a great help for me the past half year, really. So my system was really different in April and May than it normally is, because I needed different kinds of maps, really, to tell me what to do with my days and my life. So flexibility for me.
Excellent. That was 2 from Norway. Now we'll have 1 from Denmark. Lars, what's your favorite part of GTD now?
Right now, it's got to be checklists, I think. Have a really busy month coming up, traveling to Greenland to deliver our first seminars there. So we have 2 seminars there, and I have 3 seminars later this month in Denmark. We have both coaching and speeches as well, and a bit of vacation with my family. So a lot of stuff going on, and without checklists being set up for all of this, I would have no clue about what to do, and making sure that all the moving parts are being taken care of. So for me right now, it's got to be the checklists.
Thank you, Lars. And we'll go to Finland and Jukka. Jukka, what's your favorite part of GTD?
It would have to be natural planning model. Hands down, I'm renovating or have been renovating a house, a big old house, since the start of the Corona crisis. And I've had more than one brainstorming session on this project, and have actually learned that it's possible to go through any kind of a problem and turn it into a project when using the model.
Great. And going to Sweden now, Martin.
Yes, thanks, Jens. Yes, I think for me, it kind of changes all the time. And right now, I actually enjoy the weekly review the mostly. And the reason is as Morten, I was also on vacation last week. I went to Italy instead. And when I came home, everything was in chaos, really. So I really enjoyed sitting down and going through everything, especially checking through all the emails, making sure that you actually was up to date with everything, and the feeling afterwards to understand that I'm actually good now, and I can see the priorities and what's important for me. So at the moment, it's the weekly review. Ask me tomorrow, it will be something else.
And then we'll go to Germany and Karl-Ivar.
Hello, everybody. So nice to see you all. I'm sitting with two things, but I'm going to choose one of them, and that's my personally made monthly review. Of course, we all talk about the weekly review, but once a month, I personally love to jump up to the Horizon 2, my areas of focus, and just go through them and make sure that I have the right balance. And the weekly review is the critical success factor, no doubt about that. And when I manage to jump up once a month to the and do a monthly review, just go through all my roles of responsibility and make sure I have the right amount of next actions and projects, it just gives me yet another level of relaxed control, and that's just so cool. I love it. So that's my favorites now.
And Morten, your favorite part?
It's have been for a long time and still is my horizons of focus, because you navigate through life and it changes. Suddenly Corona comes and your focus change a little, and to be able to recalibrate where I am heading is my favorite. We are involved in businesses in 4 different countries, and this is that you can go crazy very easily when you have too much to do. I don't know if you've ever noticed that there is always more to do than there is time, and you have to make sure that you make the right decisions. So for me, the horizons of focus helps me to choose the right things in the moment, and it helps me also to the clarity it gives me clarity in whatever I choose to do, and this clarity gives then calm, so I can focus on what's right in front of me now that I'm going to work on the next hour, and forget everything else. So that's good. That's
great.
my horizons of focus. Yeah.
And we have 6 people on the planet on the panel, and we have 6 different favorite parts. That's amazing. And should I choose one for myself, it would be the GTD community that stands out. So let's go to the questions. You can write questions in the chat, or raise the hand in Zoom. We have a couple of questions that we have been sent in. So I think we'll start with with that one. Mikael Reus, if you are able to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I'm just getting very inspired by all the favorite things, right, of GTD. but right now I have, working on the higher horizons, and that bridge down to project definition. I have this. I got this question on another podcast last week, and basically a guy saying, my purpose tends to be my desired outcome. So I mean, some of you experienced guys, could you talk about, how do you actually think of, purpose, vision versus project and desired outcomes? I mean, yeah, that's my question, basically.
And Morten, would you like to start with that, and the other panelists can chime in if they want to?
Yeah. Well, it's all tied together, but it's like maps. Imagine, Michael, that you are looking at a street map to find your home. But to find where your home is, maybe you want to find the city, and then you have to have a bigger map. And then a bigger map to find out where you are in Europe, and then a bigger map to find out where you are in the world. But if you want to find directions to the nearest grocery store from your home, the big map of the world don't help you. So if you break it down, you need to have maps on the different horizons. So your purpose should be something, and that is, well, when I do my horizons focus analysis with my clients, I try always to ask them to find adjectives that will describe them, or people will describe them after you're dead. So Michael, if I asked you, what would you like to be remembered by? It could be, for instance, I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm open, I'm honest, anything that you find valuable for you, and that will be defining your purpose. But then you can take all of these different adjectives and then break them down into vision. When I live my purpose, how does it look? What do I do? And that could be affirmations, like you can, I'm honest, I never lie, I try always to tell the truth, as long as I don't unnecessarily hurt someone, etc. And then you break it down for long-term goals, and then you have your areas of responsibility must be in harmony of your, for instance, we talked about this before, just today, actually. I had clients who resigned their jobs. I had a director in a big company in Norway resigned this job because it was not in alignment with the horizons of focus. And but before we did this focus of horizons analysis, this person didn't know. It was not clear to this person. So, and then you have areas of responsibility, personal and professional, and then you go down to your projects and your desired outcome for your projects. But then you are granular. Now you're on your street level. And then what do I do to achieve this? For instance, it could be your life purpose is so far away you can't see it, but it is a direction more than it is something concrete. So okay, I'm rambling here. I'll leave the word to whoever Jens gives the mic to. Thank you. I hope that makes sense, Michael.
Yeah, it does.
Anyone else wants to comment on this one, or?
I think Lars.
I think Morten. How did you know? No, because I actually don't have much to add to what you said, Morten. I think you covered it really well. What I wanted to add was that 1 week ago, in 2018, we were in Amsterdam, And just as you were saying this, Morten, it reminded me. So I quickly, thanks to Google Photos, was quickly able to grab it. So I just want to briefly share that because that's exactly it. This is a picture from the Hilton in Amsterdam where we went through some materials, and as you can see, this was exactly it. Which maps should you use to get to Times Square? So obviously a world map will be of limited use if you're standing 2 blocks from Times Square. So just as you said, Morten, the granularity in different scenarios and times, you'll need different maps, and that's where they come in.
Great. Photo documentation, excellent, Lars. We have another question from Søren Peter. If you are able to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. After listening to your podcast about projects and action support material, I was thinking what you were doing with projects that you put into like hibernation or you put on hold, because it sounded like you would have one system for your active projects and actions and the support material for that, and then you would move it back and forward if it's active or not active. And I thought that would be a lot of moving back and forward every week if you decide to change your priorities just to, but it might also be just how you set up your system, like if it's digital or analog. So that was something I was wondering about after listening to that podcast way back. And I found this question in my agenda list for you guys. And yeah, so my system is kind of working, but not always. So like any thoughts on how to do that? Because it sounded like a lot of overload how you presented it in the podcast. Thank you.
Virtual backgrounds are not always a good thing. Let me just, I have a virtual background. I want to show you this if I can. And just 1 second. I lost my mouse. Okay, you're gonna see the real green screen now. Like this. So this is a suggested system, but if you go for paper-based, I have my action support folder first, and this is for random actions I need to take. And then I have my active projects now in the front with paper-based material. But if one project is moved to the back, like Martin is now ready for being moved to the back because he has finished his certification. So he will go in the back, and when I do my, I will do that later. I don't want to mess my system up, but he will go in the back, and then after a while I will rinse this out, maybe once every second or third month to see if something goes out. That's the paper-based, but if you do this digitally, you can do the same thing because you can use the commentary field of your task app to add files and links to files you need, links to emails you need, and just drag them in, and then you just take the project and put it in a different category, in a different folder or a different, tagging. What would you guys do?
I'd do the same, Martin. I was just thinking about it. I used Evernote as my system for a long time, and as you say, the comments or notes field really can hold all kinds of stuff, which is one of the benefits of using a notebook-based system, that you can store everything there. So as you said, if you have a system like that, then all you need to do is move the project to the right list or location. So I'm thumbs up for that solution.
Any other?
I have a variation. I also have a paper-based system, and I do similar as Morten mentioned. But I also have a lot of digital files, and what I have set up, I have a folder structure in Dropbox because I also have multiple computers, of course. So I have one folder that I call action support, and in this action support folder, I put random files that I need for different actions. And usually in my list manager, when I need to do something, I add on to the note in the list manager where the files are, and then in action support or in AS. And sometimes I do that straight in the end of the subject of the title, the task as well. And for project support materials, I have a folder called projects, and in that I have one folder for each project, and I try to name them as the same name as I had in my list manager, so it's easy to find them. And if I would put something on hold or incubate it, or I mean put it on my someday maybe, I would probably just move it out from this structure into my other file structure. And if it's something that I will most likely not look in for a long time, I would zip the whole directory and put it to a different file place. So that's how I work with files. And I also have Evernote, of course, and Devon Think and other tools, but it's actually the quickest way is simple files on disk.
Great. Anyone else?
Yep. So I can chime in. I have a Google Keep as a system. It's very similar to Evernote in many aspects. And how I've done this is that I actually have a tag for every project. They are either in active projects or they are on projects on hold. And I just do this to limit my number of active projects. So when I do my weekly review, I just view the whole active projects list and try to figure out whether I have the bandwidth or time during the next week or two to actually address each and every of these projects. And if it looks like there are projects that I cannot move on during the next, say, 2 weeks, I might actually choose to put them on the on hold list. And one advantage of this approach is that even though I move these projects out of the active list, they are still in some sense subconsciously present. So I might see something or realize something that is in relation to that project that is on hold. So I have a very safe and logical place to capture these things that belong to the project, even though they may be as notes that I won't process until I'm ready to move on with the project after the set time. So, yeah.
Great. Then let's go to the next question. I have one from Bernd Månsson. If you're able to unmute yourself.
Okay, I have a switched computer so you can see me. I thought that was nicer, especially when I ask questions. My question is basically when it comes to email. I am mostly based in the Macintosh world, and I'm using OmniFocus or Todoist or whatever I can lay my hand on. And I've been trying several email softwares for several years, but I haven't found any software that works with a GTD software good. So my question is basically, how do I keep track of the emails, not the task in itself, because that is linked to the email. But when it comes to my emails, like in the Gmail or in Airmail or Sparks, whatever I'm doing, I have no clue. How do you, the else of you, how are you managing your emails?
And we can start with Espen. If you don't, any of the panelists have a visual aid like Morten did before. So let's start with Espen.
Can I ask you just a clarifying question? Because
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I actually understand what you're asking here. Are you asking if because you said you can link the email to a task, but what happens after? Is that what you know?
Yes.
Okay. Now it's ready for me. But
I hope that I understand you too.
We'll
Otherwise,
find out soon enough.
There's a problem with Swedish or Norwegian English or svorsk or whatever you call it.
Yeah, something like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Who did you give the word to?
To Espen.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, at least the easiest way to start is well to describe how I do it, because now I use Todoist, so I use the same kind of procedure with linking a task to the email. I have there's an extension in Gmail that allows you to create the task directly from there, so that my overview, my go-to place when I need to know what to do is Todoist, not my inbox in Gmail. And that it works really well. And what happens to the email is really, in my mind, not as important, because when I need the email, I will find it from my Todoist list, and I can always search, which usually brings me whatever I need. But what I do sometimes is that I tag emails that have some kind of follow-up with either a project support tag label in Gmail or an action support label. So that's pretty much the only thing I do with email. Sometimes also waiting for. So those three: project support, action support, or waiting for. But most of the time, they're just archived and end up in the big pile that's called all mail in Gmail for me.
And I have a follow-up question there, because that is the easy part. But the problem is, of course, that people keep replying on that email. And that, of course, in Gmail will make sure that that email comes to my inbox. So far, it's okay. But if I understand it correctly, the basic idea is forget about the email.
Yeah, yeah, basically, because if you have a good system in another software, then what happens to the email is not as important, as long as you can click a link or an attachment or whatever and get the original email back again. Then, in my mind at least, that's less important. And if someone replies and the email pops back into your inbox again, that really just means that, well, now you have something new that you need to process, to clarify and organize and decide, well, this new thing, is this something I should do something about? Is it actionable or not? And then, go through the GTD process. And most of the time it could be just someone replied okay or yes or thumbs up, and then it's definitely on that this is not actionable, and then just archive it again.
And turn off email conversations.
Well, I don't do that. So
I do that.
That's your tip.
Yeah.
And any other comments from any of you coaches and trainers?
Do you feel, Bent, that you got a good answer, or are you still unsure about your question?
Well, you solved the problem quite easily, because this is one of my ideas. Just forget about the email. But I've been thinking, am I missing something? But your reply is no, you don't.
Yeah, I guess. Can I ask roughly how many emails you get every day?
Roughly about 200.
About 200 every day. Okay. Yeah. Because of course it also depends on the question of taste, and the question is where you would like to keep your action reminders about those emails. And it's also, of course, also a question of which software you like to use and stuff. But there's two possibilities that we recommend. And one possibility is what I assume you do now. You have the action reminder in your list software. So let's say you're using OmniFocus, you have the reminder of any action you have to take on those emails in OmniFocus.
Yes.
there's an alternative, and that you treat the email itself as an action reminder and keep the email in your program. Now you have two places to look for action reminders, both OmniFocus and email. And for instance, but it depending on what the email software you use, it might be a quicker way since you get so many emails every day. May I ask which software you use for email? Would you?
To be perfectly honest, right now I'm using Airmail. That's a Mac software. But that is not the important thing, because I've tried Spark, I've tried the built-in Gmail software. The problem for me is that I have a part-time assignment as a local politician in my home community. And basically, that is the big, not problem, because it's not a problem, but since people sometimes they're replying on email and asking me to do other things, sometimes they're not replying, they're forwarding it. So sometimes, well, you know where I'm heading. So it's sometimes when they forward the email and somebody else replies on it, that makes a total mess out of things. So I've been trying both in OmniFocus, and I have been trying Todoist as well, but I still feel more comfortable with OmniFocus because I think it's more solid and I can do more of the things that I want to do. But I'm always afraid that I'm losing something, that people are replying or forwarding stuff that I don't keep track of.
What I would advise you to, I would look for possibilities to kind of reduce that, maybe put in some, you know, if a lot of those emails you get are when you are in the CC field. So try to, if there are people that tend to put you in the CC field and it's not always necessary, for instance, try to raise them in a way to say like, hey, I don't need to see this. But at the same time, try to be a little bit more mindful when you clarify each email. And because maybe a lot of those CC emails can be deleted right away. They don't even need to go into your system. Or so really be very conscious when you clarify, okay, what is this? Okay, this is a CC email about a conversation between two colleagues of mine. Is this relevant to me? No, delete. Next. What is this? Am I going to, does this make sense to you? Is it?
Absolutely. And then I'm using Saying Later for my emails. So that means that email that are not addressed to me personally or are addressed to several people and not me, or it's junk mail, it gets forwarded directly to the Saying Later folder, which I look through maybe 2 or 3 times per week.
Okay, that's good. You're already starting on that, but I would, you know, almost everybody we coach, we spend some time to make you guys get a little bit better on the clarify step. And I've definitely been there myself when I all the time catch myself in that trap. Hey, you're not clarifying now. Wake up, man. Following these questions and be really mindful about the emails even before you let it into your system. Maybe that could also be help.
Can I make a just brief comment there? Is that if you imagine email nirvana for a GTD'er, that is only emails that is relevant that you need to reply on and actively do something about hits your inbox. Everything else is routed outside. Like I have a ton of folders or just labels in the Gmail world where emails are automatically routed, like accepted invitations for meetings. I don't need to see them. They go into accepted meetings invitation folder, and I look through them and delete them after a while if I don't need them. We have a community of practice emails we get from our global community of practice, GTD global community of practice forum, those are automatically routed into a folder. I don't need to see them. And David Allen would call this mosquitoes that ruins the big hunt, because every little email will steal your attention, even if it's, especially if it's irrelevant, it will unnecessarily steal. So get everything out of there. Delete everything you can get away with. Get out of all the newsletters you can, and try and get to that nirvana place where anything that hits your email inbox you need to actively relate to. That's my extra little tip there. Does that make sense, Bernd?
Absolutely. I have one thing that is good too, and that is when my local commune has problem with their email service, which happens every now and then, because the company that Minnesota is buying their emails, not buying, the email services, it tends to get busted or get broken every now and then. So usually if I'm lucky, I don't get any emails for a week or two. The only problem is that when I finally get them, they're too late, and then I can delete them.
It sounds like your email bankruptcy is a good thing for you. You don't get emails for a week. It sounds great.
And then you complain to Tito and Arthur, and then they say, well, we haven't heard any problems. Are you sure that you have a problem? Maybe it is like this, that you don't get any emails. And I always reply, if I was so lucky.
Okay, and we have some comments from all our participants. Jonas, if you still have some comments, you can unmute yourself.
Thanks. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that I have a system for my email that seems to work, and it might not work if you receive 200 emails a day. That's a bit much, but there's no fancy software integration or anything. I just have in each email inbox, like I have maybe 5 different, there's Outlook, there's Proton, there's Gmail, whatever, and I always have either a label or a folder called action in there. And then in my GTD software, which is Nirvana, incidentally, but it doesn't matter, I create a task that says, respond or process this email. And then it says, look, it's in Proton action, or it's in Gmail action, or it's in Outlook action, right? And that's all that links them together. It's very simple, very low key, and I don't have to worry about the email system anymore. Just clear it out once in a while but it's the task in the GTD system that matters and gets into your pipeline.
Trusted system, yes.
Yeah, but with 200 emails a day, it has to be automatic, I guess. You can't. But then again, it's just too many emails. I mean, who can manage that many emails in a day? I don't know.
Later can. That's a fantastic service.
But, yeah, I only receive. I'm in that place that Morten mentioned. I only receive actionable emails.
Great. Then let's go to the next question. Also, one of the questions we got before the meeting, Henrik Skov Meteby, are you able to unmute yourself?
I should be able to do so.
Great.
Hopefully also got some video. Well, my question were related to, I put
Henrik, you're a little bit low.
Okay, I'll try to switch to a different microphone if you can take a different question first, and then I'll...
No, it's better now.
Okay, good. My main issue is I get put down a lot of items in my to-do list or whatever list software I'm using, but I'm not very good at making them actionable. So how do I get from a very rough note to something that I can actually do something about without thinking? I can see that's my main issue with this setup right now.
Yeah, then we can stay on Fyn, I think, and ask Lars.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me give that a shot. So I think you've already identified what needs to happen, meaning to spend more time clarifying. So it probably comes back to either a familiarity with the clarifying step, and again, like Khaliva said, really getting used to spending time on this, thinking things through. And I find that for me, if I remember correctly, at least, it really was one of the steps that once it starts to really dawn on me how it worked, it really quickly became a habit, and I was able to pretty quickly think these things through. And then it did also, I think in the beginning, take me a bit of time to actually then capture that and write it down. So maybe you identify it when you see it, but you forget the organized step, meaning to write that next action in there. And I certainly still remember that feeling of looking at that and figuring out, sure, that's the next action. Do I really need to write that down? Am I, the not so smart version of myself? Do I really have to feed myself that kind of simple things? But that's really, it makes the world so much easier when it's, consists of next action. So I guess, yeah, taking time to practice this and really becoming good at it. Yeah. I think that would be my best tip. And I think maybe Morten has a follow-up.
No, I just wanted to say that the clarify is so important. If you really clarify your next actions, and then I mentioned this in the podcast a couple of times. What is it? What does it mean to me? And then add seriously, am I going to do something about this? Because there is always more to do than there is time. So when you make the seriously question, this helps you to clean out the things that you might want to do. But one of the things I see is the most important, most common error amongst my coaching clients is that they are committing to too many things. Can we do just a quick hands up? Have you ever overcommitted yourself? Just show me a show of hands. Yes, exactly. So don't do that.
You have a button that says no, right?
No. For the last time, no.
Yes, I have a button with a no.
Anyone else wants to add some things after Morten's no?
But Henrik, did you get an answer to your question?
Yes, I did so.
Okay, good.
I think it's more a question about training and getting used to putting in the effort at the right place. Because one thing is you have your list of what you are supposed to do, but it's difficult to take an item off the list and do something about it. Then you're not using the system as well as possible.
No, absolutely correct.
If I may jump in a little bit here, so part of the GTD training process is to get coached by Morten, and I thought my biggest problem in my process after being using GTD for 15 years was in the capture and the weekly review. But my big aha was the clarify step is so important. Really put effort into clarify the items. And this whole notion about the next physical, visible action that brings something forward, that is actually something physical and visible. That will help you a lot when you're gonna work with it, because you have been thinking it through, you're done with the thinking, you can just act on it immediately. And it will help you a lot with not procrastinate. So it's super important. That was one of the best things I learned on the whole certification journey, was the process is so important, or clarify is so important.
And also just one short thing, it just keeps remembering things. But the order of the clarify map, it's there for a reason. You first ask what it is, and then if you're going to do something about it, and only then, if you say yes, you figure out what the next action is and the project. So at least I've experienced that a lot of times. I just skip to the, oh, this is stuff that happened in my world. I need to figure out what the next action is. I need to figure out what the project is, and then move on. and that leads to overcrowded project list and several hundred next actions. So don't skip the first 2 questions.
Super important.
Can I pitch in as well? I think I've learned recently that if I find it difficult to put a good context on my next action definition, it's probably because the next action isn't that smart yet. So I have to reiterate on it until it's extremely easy for me to put a context on it, because that often means that, oh, wow, now I really know and can see what the work actually looks like when I'm doing it. That's a quality assurance step for me. If I can't put a context on it without thinking about it, it's not clarified enough yet.
For those of you who feel that, oh, I should be better at this, this is normal, problems all GTD'ers have. We have all been there. All the ones who are certified have been there, and all the ones who's not certified have been there or will come there. So don't feel bad about this, but just practice. And we spend a lot of time during the certification process on just this topic: how to clarify, how to help people clarify their stuff. So just keep working at it. What is it? What does it mean to me? Is it actionable? Seriously, am I going to do something about this? And then if yes, what's the next action? And the classic is, I know I need to do something, but it takes less than 2 minutes. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm sure it takes less than 2 minutes. And 50 minutes later, you're still working on this thing that you think was 2 minutes. So clarify, next action, next action, next action, next physical, visible action, where you have everything you need that somebody can see you do. That will help you a lot.
Great. We have you're still very welcome to write some questions in the chat box, and while we're waiting for that, we have one here from Tommy Bell, where he asks about your best practice about organizing information. You could, are you able to, if he's still around? Just ask, yeah, Martin, about organizing the information.
Yes, I would like to know a little bit more. So when we say organize, are we talking about reference material? How we organize our reference materials? Or is it how we organize our clarified stuff? Yeah, or is it some other way?
He asks about when he had a lot of projects and tasks that's organized. What to say? He has a lot of things going from. It's not a silo projects, but going between different areas.
So it's more of actions than next actions.
I hope he had been here to clarify.
I think I'm doing mostly when I'm organizing my next actions. I'm using contexts a lot, and that's something that drives me when I work, because that's how I find what I need to work on. So context for me is really important. So I organize everything I need into different next actions lists based on context. And sometimes these lists have a tendency to be very long, especially you have a computer list that may be very, very long of things. I try to sort that down into other lists as well. For example, maybe I can break something out to an email list, so then I can work more focused on email for a while, and then go on and do other focus work on my computer, for example. So I think that it's like a good approach, and I know everyone doesn't like contexts, and some people prefer to work from the project perspective instead, and I think that's good sometimes, especially if you have projects that are higherly prioritized than other things, so you really need to have movement on them. Then working from the project's point of view could be really effective as well. I don't know if this answered the question.
I hope so. Otherwise,
Maybe,
we'll have another Q&A session.
Yeah, maybe someone else wants to pitch in and give a try as well. Jukka, for example.
I wonder if the reference was somewhat to the project support material and the action material. That was my first thought when I heard the question, and so if I'll address it from that perspective, I generally try to view nearly everything that I have in regards to my projects is in digital form, but I try to replicate the structure of physical world into the digital realm. So I have very plain, clear folders for project support material, regardless of the forum they are in. So if there's project support material in email that is in a folder structure that supports finding support material from the email, if it's in just files on the computer, it's a similar setup there. And also if it's just in the task manager as notes, then it will replicate the same system also there. Yeah, I hope I'm on the right track.
Great. Then we have a question from Anders. Anders, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. I have a lot of meetings these days, and there's a lot of Teams meetings, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions on how I can get in control of my work life and get more time for doing and also reviewing. Often meetings are colliding with my weekly reviews and so on. So does anyone have any similar experiences and some tips to me?
We can start with Karl-Ivar.
Yes, yeah, great question. I think there are many people asking this question, and there are many different answers to it. You know, when you get a request for a meeting, if you'd like to join it, maybe spend a few seconds. I'm not sure if you're in a position able to ask these questions in your role where you work, but I mean, maybe ask a very mildly question back. Okay, what's the purpose of this meeting? Why should I be in the meeting? And who owns this meeting? Yeah, what do we want to achieve? How much time is set aside? Can we do it in less time? Yeah, sometimes it's okay to ask a question like that, and other times it's just okay, boss, I'm with you know. But so that's one thing. Try to when you get the invitation, try to kind of clarify, and maybe if you ask a few questions, maybe it will get clear. No, actually, it's not necessary, this meeting. We can clarify this via email or take a short phone call, or these two persons can have a meeting, and then the rest of us get informed afterwards. Another thing I would try to look into also is of course, if you like jump up to your horizons, your areas of focus, your horizon 2, like your roles and responsibility, why you are actually, also what your responsibilities in your job is. I assume these are job meetings you are filled up with, yes. So what is your job? What are you hired for? And are these meetings in alignment with that? Is it possible maybe to have a conversation with your boss and say, hey, I have a lot of meetings, I don't get to attend to other next action and projects that I'm given. And a third thing I would think about is like small checklist for how you do meetings. Like in the beginning also, like, okay, why are we here? What's the purpose of this meeting? Who called this meeting and why? I mean, these are like kind of hard questions, but they can like make everybody be a bit more present. And of course, also use the GTD methodology and the natural planning model throughout the meeting. I mean, at least 20 minutes before the meeting stops, just force the question, okay, so what's the next action here? And who wants to do it? And who owns this project? What are we trying to achieve here? What's our goal? And which person in this meeting is responsible for getting to this goal? I mean, if many people are responsible for one project, nobody are. But if one people like said, okay, I'm responsible for this project. There are 5, 6 people in this organization who have next action towards this project, but I'm the one who owns it and they report to me. I'm not saying it has to be like this, but it could be helpful. But like use the natural planning model. What's the purpose of this meeting? What do we want to achieve? And like have the 5 steps of the natural planning model in the back of your head when you are in the meeting, and force the next action question at the end. And yeah, does this make sense to you? Is this a good answer to your question?
Yes, and I think that the idea that there should also always be one responsible for the project or for the meeting or for the problem that we're trying to solve. Because often you have meetings and there are responsibility are a bit diversified. You have defined some actions, but who is going to monitor or keep track that the actions are done?
Yes.
And I also I like the tip that you say start 20 minutes before the meeting stops. Often we start 5 minutes before the meeting stops, and okay, so we have 5 minutes for some tasks here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And be very mindful yourself about not taking note of any waiting fors or next actions or projects that you take on, and take them into your system. And maybe like allow yourself like 10 minutes of clarifying time before you go to the next meeting. Just capture the 3 waiting fors you got from that meeting, capture the 1 project you're owning, write it on your project lists, and make sure that if it's possible, and when you also plan the meetings, try to plan some slack between the meetings so you can like get out and get some fresh air. And maybe also, and yeah, and if to your question about the weekly review, do you have like a recurring event for your weekly review, or do you like put them in your calendar from time to time? How do you do it?
I have a fixed time each Friday in the morning, but in hectic times, I often let my weekly review go because of other job meetings and so on.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you're not alone about this. Definitely not alone. We generally recommend to schedule the next weekly review at the end of the before, so like you can be fluid about when you do. We all have, many of us have like a favorite time of weekly review, but at the same time, as you say, meetings might show up, and then it can be good for you not to have a recurring, but to like to be, if you'd like to do that, that could be a possibility for you too. And also be aware that when things starting, I mean, now, just according to my clients, and there's a lot of people having a lot to do right now. I mean, the things are building up, and it's the middle of the autumn soon, and so when you have a lot to do, then the weekly review is even more important than in the middle of the summer vacation. So, but I mean, strangely, we all tend to like, okay, weekly review had to go because there's so much to do. But in reality, if we prioritize the weekly review, we will actually get all the tons of things we have to do done in very less time with less energy. So we will actually save time if we do the weekly review, but we have to learn how to do the weekly review in a proper way first. Actually, I had to do that. It took me like 10, 12, 13 years. I'm still learning, by the way. So
we all are.
Yes.
Can I chime in just 2 seconds and share a little, Jens?
Yeah, welcome.
This is some slides from the level 2 project and priorities course. And I just want to show you that, but Anders, just a quick question. Who is responsible for you having good days at work?
Well, I'm responsible for that.
Yeah.
Of course. And I'm also in a position where I have my job is very self-controlling. So it's,
Yeah, so just to establish that everybody is responsible for having good days at work. This is not your boss's job. It's your job to talk to your boss so that you get good. And maybe sometimes the boss is you. So I don't have any bosses but my wife, and she actually works in the company, but I'm her boss in the company, so it kind of works itself out. But in Horizons 5 is purpose and values. That will set the tone of if you say, I want to have a good life, I want to have good health, I want to enjoy my work. And that's the first question you should ask yourself. Is this important to you? And then you should take a talk with your boss about your areas of responsibility. You should map them out. I will show you some ideas for doing this. This is areas of responsibility professionally and personally, but for this instance here should be professionally. You should map it out so that you know that this is what I think I am working, what's my responsibility, and then you should go and have a check-in with your boss. Is this what you think is what I have a responsibility for? And if those areas of responsibility feeds too many projects into your lists that you can't get through, too many meetings that it forces you to be in, maybe you should just scale down. It's a good word. Okay, my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great, and anyone else wants to add anything to this?
One small tip. I had a client who had a similar problem of not getting weekly reviews done because his time was all the time blocked by meetings scheduled by others. So he got himself a weekly review buddy, and they set up a recurring meeting. And they basically, this is not to say that you should do this, and nobody obviously does this, but I've heard that it works. So they basically booked a calendar appointment with each other, and with the title of working on some client project or something within the company, so that everyone was thinking that they were working on something different than working on the weekly review. But basically they were in a conference room by themselves with headphones on, so everyone was thinking that they're having a Teams meeting with a client or something like that, and they were doing a weekly review, and it worked perfectly. And I think it works still. I just hope the boss is not monitoring this channel.
Thanks. I'll rename my project or my meeting to important customer meeting.
Important and mark it as private. That's also a part of the secret trick. People don't tend to want to overschedule on those ones. I've heard some people might do.
That's excellent. Then we have also questions from sent to us in the Danish Facebook group. It's about decision fatigue when you're not feeling you're able to take these decisions, and we also have this clarify. Do you have any suggestions to handle this? We can start with Morten, if you like.
I'm sorry, but I talk too much. So somebody else?
Then what about you, Ken?
Decision fatigue was the question, yes.
Yeah, it was when you're feeling you have decided all day at work and then coming home, for example, and have a lot of things you need to decide on. Any tips on how to solve that?
No, not in a sense that if you need to decide instantly. What I found myself is that I have a really very limited amount of juice for the actually making the decisions. So I try to make as few decisions as possible, and that actually comes down to the clarifying step, so that whenever I process something that I've captured, I try to clarify them at one sitting so that I would not need to make that decision again. And if when I get home from work, it seems that there's too much stuff rolling around and I would need to make decisions, I might just revert to capturing them and see if there's some moment in the evening that is better suited for making those decisions, meaning that I would purposefully clarify on those items on a given time during the evening. Hope that helps.
Yeah.
I have a thought there.
Yeah.
So there can of course be multiple reasons why you end up with decision fatigue, but one reason could be that you're actually not taking this decision as you should, and that with that I mean you're actually thinking over the same stuff multiple times and don't clarify it all the way down to have a decision. That means that you actually take a decision many times or half take the decision many times. So it's important to actually clarify it and then record the outcome, and then it's done. And if you're doing that, I think you have to do less decisions. So it's important to actually take the decisions when the things comes up or when you are clarifying. Don't wait until you're forced to a decision.
And stop multitasking. You know, multitasking comes from being interrupted by others or yourself. Especially you are your worst enemy. You are dragged into thinking about stuff that's not clarified, as Martin points out, but also all the other things that you allow to hit your brain during the day. So all notification, turn them off. Any notification, you can live without and still have a job and a private life after. Turn them off, and make sure that you are protecting your ability to focus. And if you do that, you will have less decisions about if it's relevant or not. You will not reread emails, you will not reread messages, you will clarify and organize them in a timely manner. And you will, of course, have more glucose in your brain to make good decisions. You will also have a better stamina of your willpower, because you are not having decisions fatigue when your brain is brain dead after making a lot of decisions. You end up instead of running your jogging session, you end up on the sofa with a Coca-Cola and a big bag of potato chips instead. And that's because you burned your light too heavily during the day. You don't have any stamina left.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I would add just also, deciding not to decide is also a decision. So I think that's part of what Martin was saying as well. And maybe linking it back to the question we had before, just about the calendars. I had a speech here in Odense last week, actually, where some of the participants were asking whether to fix times where they define their work. I see this question as well in the chat now, when to do it. And some people that I've coached have had to block time for themselves to get to zero. So when you get that 200-300 emails a day, they had to block times, and that means that they sort of had to force themselves to have the bandwidth to make those decisions at those times. Where I'm at least fortunate enough to be able to make the decision on when I want to do that for the most time. So I will, there's 2 hours until my next meeting. What do I want to do? Do I want to work on my list? Is there some unplanned work that has shown up that's the right thing for me to do right now, or do I want to empty my inboxes? So that's where the energy decision comes in. Do I feel like I have the energy right now to go in and do that?
And that's exactly what Lars is talking about there. It's a very, very important thing to have in the back of the head, the threefold nature of work. When I read about this the first time, I thought, yeah, of course, I have threefold nature. You define, you do work, or you do unplanned work, of course. I mean, that's self-explanatory, but there's a lot of gold in there. Just as Lars mentioned, now have it in the back of your head, and don't underestimate that.
That's great. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Anyone have anything on their mind right now, or is it empty?
Just while people think, another few cents about the decision making. Also keep in mind that all decisions drain your mind, right? So even the small decisions take a small amount of energy, and I really think GTD is a good tool against decision fatigue, because as we mentioned, you only make each decision once, but you also choose which decisions to make. So instead of spending all day in your email inbox and deciding on 100 things about emails, you can just clear out your inbox and spend your day in their calendar or looking at your lists and making more valuable decisions, at least. So we're back at the starting point, really, that you have a finite amount of energy to use on making decisions. Make sure you're making the right decisions every day.
Great. And we have one final question, and of course, no Q&A without going into a weekly review. So a question from Jonas. You can unmute yourself and.
Yeah, so I also wrote it in the chat, like it's an open question to either of you. How much time do you spend on the weekly review? Is it like 1 hour, 3 hours, a whole day? And do you do private and work weekly review in one session, or do you split it up in 2 sessions or more sessions?
Yeah, we can take just going around and end with Lars, and he can then take us out of this meeting as you usually do in the Nordic podcasts. And while we have all these good answers, I'll put some links on to the Facebook groups and the podcast in the chat. So we can start with Morten.
For how long time I spend on my weekly review, I also answered in the chat. I use around 2 hours, depending on how much I have on my plate and how much but I need a couple of hours to make sure that I get in, really feel good about my work after. And I do it on a specific day. I do it on Fridays from 8:39 to around 10:30, maybe 11. But I need that to feel good about my work, and then I do my personal and professional in do one session. So there is I'm one person. I'm not two personalities inside of me, even though sometimes I may feel like that. But but I'm one. I have one brain that try and process. So I use everything in one. So and I'm not actually sure if I answered that question. Jens, what was that question? Was it for the weekly review? Because you talked about something else, and I kind of got distracted there. Did I answer the question?
It was about how long time you used, and if it was a professional or personal or
okay.
both at the same time.
I think I answered that.
Yeah. So we'll go to Esben then. And
yeah, it's actually become more and more difficult to answer that question because more and more I do a weekly review when I need to. But I do set aside in my calendar 2 hours every week, so that I won't forget to do it. I have the calendar reminder that just wakes me up and lets me know that it's time to do a weekly review. But especially these last few months, there's been more going on than usual. There's been more new stuff to handle and to process and clarify and organize. So I've really been in a place where I've done as much weekly review as I needed, but no less than one time a week, but often more. So I've probably gone over the two hour mark a few times as well, because it's been difficult to separate weekly review from just getting my head above water some days. So but it's a good idea to put it in a calendar at least, and then set aside a time that you think you'll be able to finish as much as you need to do and be happy afterwards.
Great. What about you, Ken? Any inputs?
Personal and professional at the same time. I usually do the first segment on Thursday afternoons, meaning that I process all my inboxes, do a mind sweep. And on Friday morning, I started with a very short mind sweep and go into the action lists and then to the project review. It can take half an hour. It can take 2 hours. It really depends on the week and how much material I've accumulated on a project level mainly.
Great. Martin, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but it's a little bit about the cleanliness factor, right? So if you go to shower when you're dirty enough, and I think you should do the weekly review when your head is dirty enough to do the weekly review. I do my weekly review. I try to do it on the Fridays, but it had a tendency to be overbooked by other things, or life happened. So nowadays I'm doing it during the weekends, so it can happen either on Saturday or Sunday, and I don't feel stressed if I miss it on the Saturday, because then I know I will do it on the Sunday. So one of the others, and it usually takes around 30 minutes to 1.5, sometimes 2 hours. It completely depends. And also it depends on how busy the week is. If it's a really hectic week, I may do a smaller weekly review midweek just to get back on track and make sure I don't forget anything. And I also do something very similar to Jukka. I actually clear my inboxes first, and because I have a bunch of email and other inboxes as well, or stuff that I have identified as inboxes. And after that, I take a break, but I do the whole weekly review in one day, but do one session or time block, and then I continue with the rest. And I do both professional and privates at the same time.
And then Kaliwa.
Yes, I'm seeing that we're running out of time, so I'm going to be very short. Roughly 1.5 to 2 hours. At the moment, I tend to have more like maybe 5 or 6 days between each review. So I kind of mix the weekdays because I see that I lose motivation and I start to lose focus if I have 1 week in between. But that really depends. And I also do get clear on one day very often and get current on another day. Yes, and I have one, of course, the main thing of the weekly review is the project review. So I have one private section of projects. So I like to do that. And then I switch to the job section of my projects, but it all is in one review. So I can like get private ideas and job ideas, but my brain doesn't know the difference. So it's all thoughts. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. It was so nice to be here.
Yeah, and at last we have Lars.
Yes, so to answer that question quickly also from my end, 1 to 2 hours is probably pretty average for me, and I also mix both the personal and professional. And just noticed also a question from Torbjørn a bit earlier this evening, and I think actually maybe both Yuka and Martin answered it, because what happens if I get, all my weekly review time is lost in 2-minute actions? Well, try to split it up, set aside some time Thursday afternoon so you have a nice clean inbox Friday morning, or maybe just a few things in there that you have to then work on. So I think we can then wrap it up. Thank you, Jens, as usual, for hosting the event for us and moderating. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining. It's so much fun to see you all and get all of your inputs. I hope this was really valuable to you all. And as usual, as you may know from the podcast, and you probably know as well, gtdnordic.com, it's in the chat. That's where you find all the country websites, and on each of those you can find all of the articles that we've written about GTD, all the courses, links to the different Facebook groups that we have where you can ask your questions and keep talking about systems and all that good stuff. So be sure to go there. And if you're watching this from outside the Nordics, then gettingthingsdone.com is the place to go and find your local partners. That's it for this evening. Thank you everyone so much for joining, and hope to see you again next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.